under the gray sky of the Alaskan Sea, where fierce waves constantly crash against the ship's side. American fishermen work day and night to catch cod. Their work is not only a way to make a living, but also part of a long-standing tradition, where perseverance and iron will are prerequisites for survival in this harsh sea. Modern fishing boats, equipped with advanced technology, leave the harbor early in the morning, when the sun is just barely visible on the horizon. The fishermen wear thick waterproof suits. Their faces are roughened by the sea wind. Their eyes are full of determination as they look out to sea. They do not know what challenges they will face today, but they are always ready. Cod is a precious fish, has high economic value and is an important source of raw materials for the food processing industry. They live in cold waters, deep in the Alaskan Sea, where there are strong ocean currents and harsh living conditions. To catch cod, American fishermen use long trawl nets, one of the effective fishing methods but requires high technique and coordination between members of the team. The kilometer-long trawl net is dropped into the water, waiting for the fish to be caught. This is the most tense moment for the whole team, as they follow the signals from radar and sonar equipment to determine the location of the school of cod. Once the signal shows that the net is full of fish, they quickly pull the net up. Each cod is huge, weighing tens of kilograms, shining silver under the sunlight. The roar of the engine blends with the shouts of the fishermen as they quickly sort the fish, putting them into the frozen storage compartment right on the ship. Sweat rolls down their foreheads, but no one stops. This work requires speed and endurance, because just a little delay can damage the fish and affect their commercial value. They work tirelessly, in the biting cold of the northern sea. Sometimes, a storm suddenly comes. The waves are as high as walls of water. The ship is rocking violently, but the experienced fishermen still calmly steer the ship, holding the wheel firmly in the middle of the vast ocean. Each trip lasts for weeks, even months. When the hold is full of cod, they return to port, carrying the fruits of their hard work. At the port, the fish are immediately transferred to processing plants, where they are cleaned, filleted and packaged for export to all over the world. The fishing boats continue to leave port, carrying with them the hope of a bumper catch. On deck, the fishermen are busy checking equipment, repairing trawl nets, preparing for a long journey at sea. They know that once the ship sets sail, there will be no room for error. Every rope, every net, every screw had to be checked carefully, because even a small problem could have serious consequences in the vast ocean, where help often did not arrive in time. The wind grew stronger as the ship moved farther from shore. The cold Alaskan waves crashed against the ship's side. Creating a dull sound, but for the fishermen, the sound was no longer strange. They were used to the rhythm of the sea, its fierceness and its majestic beauty. Night fell. The whole sea was plunged into darkness. Only the lights from the ship glittered on the water. They stayed up all night, monitoring the signals from the sonar to identify the school of cod. When the radar detected a large school of fish, everyone quickly got into position. The giant trawl net was carefully lowered into the water. It stretched out on the seabed, silently surrounding the school of cod. This process requires precise calculations of ocean currents, depths, and fish movements. A small mistake can cost them tens of thousands of dollars. The most stressful moment is when they start pulling up the net. The whole ship becomes bustling. Everyone puts all their effort into the work. The net is heavy with tons of fish caught in it. The fish bodies glisten under the ship's lights. The giant cod thrashes, creating splashes of water. The fishermen have to work very quickly to make sure no fish escape the net. The first net is successfully pulled up. The ship is filled with laughter mixed with sighs of relief. The work continues without stopping. They drop the net, pull the net, then quickly sort the fish, put them in the freezer to keep them fresh. Every movement is precise and skillful, showing the experience of those who have been attached to the sea for many years. The night sea is not peaceful. Sometimes, a storm suddenly came, causing the ship to rock violently. The waves were as high as walls. The water continuously crashed against the side of the ship. In this situation, each fisherman had to be steady. They tightened their safety belts, checked their nets, and kept the ship steady in the wind and waves. Despite the lurking danger, they could not stop, because once the nets were lowered, there was no way back. When the storm passed, the sea became calm again, but fatigue was evident on everyone's faces. They took advantage of the rare moments of rest, leaning against the ship's railing, watching the starry sky. Some people recounted their previous trips, times facing sharks or giant schools of cod that they had never seen before. For them, the sea was not only a place to make a living but also a part of life. A challenge that they were willing to conquer again and again. After many days at sea, the ship's hold gradually filled with fish. This was the time they began their journey back to port. Everyone was both excited and nervous. If the trip is successful, they will have a large sum of money to support their families. But if not, they will have to continue on their journey, continuing to face unforeseen difficulties. Ships arrive one after another, carrying hundreds of tons of cod. Refrigerated trucks are waiting to transport the fish to processing plants. The large cod are cut into pieces, cleaned, filleted and packaged, ready for export to all over the world. Their value lies not only in the delicious quality of their meat but also in the efforts of those who have exchanged sweat, even their lives, to bring them ashore. Each trip to sea is a new story, a relentless battle with nature. But American fishermen continue to go to sea, despite the storms, despite the biting cold of Alaska, because for them, the sea is not only a place to make a living. But also a part of their flesh and blood, a love that cannot be separated. The sun rises over the horizon, casting its first rays of light on the cold Alaskan sea. Cod fishing boats begin a new day, continuing their journey in search of large schools of fish. For fishermen, each trip to sea brings hope for a bountiful catch, but also comes with countless challenges and dangers. They know that the sea is unforgiving, but it is perseverance, courage and excellent skills that have helped them survive over the years. The boats glide across the water, leaving long waves in their wake. The crew is busy with their work, checking equipment, reviewing the trawl system, adjusting the machinery to ensure everything is running smoothly. The atmosphere on board is tense but full of determination. Everyone knows that any mistake can lead to serious consequences, especially when they are working in a harsh environment like the Alaskan Sea. After hours of traveling, radar and sonar detected a giant school of cod swimming deep under the sea. The captain immediately ordered the trawl net to be deployed. Hundreds of meters of net were slowly lowered into the water. Gently surrounding the school of fish. This was the most important moment, when just one wrong move could cause the fish to escape, or worse, damage the entire net system. The fishermen focused all their attention on their work. No one dared to be distracted for even a second. When the signal from the sonar device showed that the net was full, the process of pulling the net up began. This was the most difficult moment, requiring strength and coordination between the crew. The net was stretched, heavy under the weight of tons of cod caught inside. The giant fish, their scales shining silver, struggled violently as they were pulled up from the water. The fishermen had to handle it quickly, ensuring that the fish were brought into the storage compartment in the freshest condition. They worked tirelessly, sweat rolling down their faces, cold from the sea wind. While everyone was working hurriedly, suddenly a shout rang out. A big wave is coming. A giant wave higher than the side of the ship came crashing down, crashing hard on the deck, causing everyone to sway. Some crew members clung tightly to their safety ropes, while others hurriedly held onto their equipment. Preventing them from being swept away. Despite the danger, no one gave up. When the wave passed, they continued their work, as if these difficulties were just a familiar part of life. After many days at sea, the ship's hold was finally full of fish. This was the signal for them to return to port. The return journey was always a special moment, when the fishermen looked back on what they had experienced. From the battles with nature to the joy of seeing the fruits of their labor. There are people who have been in this profession their whole lives. Passing it on from generation to generation, continuing a proud tradition. When the ship docks, the bustling atmosphere begins again. Refrigerated trucks are waiting to transport the fish to processing plants. The huge cod are sorted, pre-processed and packaged, ready for export around the world. From high-end restaurants in Japan to large supermarkets in Europe. Alaskan cod is always highly appreciated for its excellent quality. White meat, sweet and rich in nutrients. Looking at the cod packages being transported, the fishermen could not hide their pride. They know that their work not only brings income to their families, but also makes an important contribution to the US seafood industry. Despite facing many dangers and hardships, they always keep their spirits up, ready to set off for the next fishing trip. The sea always has mysteries and challenges, but it also brings opportunities, life and hope. American fishermen, with courage and determination, continue their journey on the vast ocean, despite storms, despite the biting cold of Alaska, because for them, the sea is not only a place to make a living, but also a part of life, a passion that never fades. The days drifting on the Alaskan Sea are not only a series of non-stop working hours, but also an emotional journey for the fishermen. Each trip, they not only bring back holds full of cod, but also accumulate valuable experiences and stories that only those who are attached to the sea can fully understand. In the evening on the ship, after a hard day's work, the crew members often gather together, sharing stories about previous trips, about the big storms they have overcome, about the giant schools of fish they have caught. Some people talk about the first time they went to sea, when they were young men, bewildered by the vastness of the ocean. Some people recall the story of a friend who unfortunately returned, to remind each other that the sea always has unpredictable dangers. Despite the arduous work, they always maintain an optimistic spirit. Jokes and impromptu songs echoed in the cold sea night, making the atmosphere on board warmer. In those moments, they were no longer just colleagues, but became a family, sharing joy and facing challenges together. Each person on board had their own role. The person in charge of controlling the net had to have extensive experience to ensure that the net was dropped and retrieved properly. The boat operator had to carefully observe signals from radar and sonar to guide the boat to the right location with fish. Those working on the deck had to be agile and coordinate well to ensure that the fish were brought into the storage compartment in the best condition. No one could work alone. Everyone had to unite and understand each other through nods or glances. Every time the net was pulled up, everyone was nervous. Sometimes the net was full of cod, but sometimes they only caught a little. Everything depended on nature, experience and a little luck. When they catch a big haul of fish, the whole boat bursts into joy. But when the net doesn't have many fish, they don't get discouraged. They understand that the sea is not always generous. But if they persevere and work hard, the results will come. The weather in the Alaskan Sea is always harsh. The cold winds cut through the skin. The big waves suddenly come, making the work even more difficult. There are days when it rains and snows heavily. Visibility is limited. The boat has to move slowly to avoid hitting the icebergs. But no matter what the weather is like, the fishermen do not give up. They are used to these challenges, and they consider it an indispensable part of fishing. After many days at sea, when the ship's hold is full of fish, the captain orders a return to port. The journey home always brings a feeling of excitement and anticipation. The fishermen think of their families, of warm meals after many days away from home. They think of their children waiting for their fathers to return with stories of the sea. And they also think of the next trip, with new hopes. When the ship arrives, the fishing port becomes bustling. Refrigerated trucks are waiting to transport fish to the processing plant. The cod is unloaded, sorted and packaged, ready for export to all over the world. Fishing not only brings income to fishermen, but also contributes to the national economy. American fishermen are not just ordinary workers, they are warriors of the sea. People who always face challenges, always maintain a resilient spirit. For them, the sea is not only a place to make a living, but also an indispensable part of life. And no matter how many difficulties, they are always ready to set out, continuing the journey to conquer the ocean. The vast ocean is not only a source of life, but also a strict teacher who teaches fishermen valuable lessons about perseverance, courage and solidarity. Each trip to sea is not only a journey to find cod, but also a battle with nature, with harsh winds and waves, and sometimes with themselves. There are days when the sea is calm, the water surface is flat as a mirror, reflecting the deep blue sky. On those days, the fisherman's work becomes easier. They can cast and retrieve their nets in favorable conditions, without being hindered by fierce waves. However, there are also days when the sea turns. The sky is grey, and high waves like walls of water continuously crash against the side of the ship. At those times, the fishermen have to hold onto the rope tightly, working carefully to avoid being swept away by the waves. Each cod fishing boat in the Alaskan Sea is equipped with a modern preservation system. Once the fish are brought on board, they are sorted, cleaned and frozen immediately. This process ensures that the fish is of the highest quality and remains fresh when it reaches the consumer. Work on board is always fast and efficient. The fishermen work with great concentration, knowing that even the slightest delay can affect the catch. Experienced people always share their knowledge with young crew members. Those who go to sea for the first time often encounter many difficulties. They are not used to the swaying of the ship, the cold winds and the hard work of pulling the net. But with the guidance of those who have gone before, they gradually adapt and become an important part of the team. Each fisherman has his own reason for sticking with the profession. Some were born into a family with a fishing tradition, grew up on boats and the sea has become their flesh and blood. Some came to this profession because they wanted a stable income, willing to be away from home for many days in exchange for a better life. But despite their different starting points, they all share a love for the sea, for the waves and the proud moments when they pull up a full catch of fish. At night at sea, when work temporarily subsides, fishermen have rare moments of leisure. They sat on the deck, looking up at the starry sky, listening to the sound of waves lapping against the ship's side. Stories were told in the dim light of the ship's lights. Laughter echoed in the quiet sea. Those were the moments that helped them forget their fatigue, helped them feel closer to each other. Each trip lasted for many days, sometimes weeks, when the ship's hold was full of cod, when the crew members were all tired but also proud. The captain would order to return to the mainland. The return journey always brought special emotions. Everyone looked forward to seeing their families again.